What's up, everybody? This is Football at the Bar. I'm your host. I'm TA. We got G Money right over here, and we have a very special guest, a two-time Super Bowl winning champion right here with us. We have Byron Chamberlain from the great Denver Broncos. And super excited to have you with us. Co-host today, you fired up being here with us?
Man, I'm excited to be here. Heard a lot about the podcast, so I'm excited to talk some football, man. Let's do it.
Without a doubt, we're going to talk some football.
Let's do it. We're going to do that damn thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're brought to you by ATB Media Network. And what are y'all drinking today?
Well, you already know I'm on the shindig, so shindig.
He's drinking some single malt scotch.
Yes,
how about
indeed.
you?
I got some Kettle One.
Kettle One.
Oh, man, he going in the white family. Okay, all right.
And I'm over here drinking my normal cognac, AKB6.
All right.
Super smooth cognac. Y'all don't know about that, but y'all better figure it out.
Yay.
This be popping. And before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to like, download, and subscribe to us. Because guess what?
Everything he said.
Because we're going to sit over here and have some fun with you, and we want you to have fun with us every single week. So with that being said, this was a hell of a week for some football. I mean, we saw some unbelievable games.
Wasn't it?
But one thing that really stood out is that the 49ers, I think they've established their dominance. I think I can now give them their kudos. You know, I've been hating all season. But guess what?
I'm glad you acknowledge.
I can always acknowledge when I mess up. But let me tell you something. If Shanahan, if they don't get a Super Bowl with this team that he's been able to bring together, shame on him. What do y'all think on the 49ers?
I'm going to ask Byron. Man, Byron, give it to me. What do you think, first of all, before I jump in?
You know, I think this is the team that they assembled in San Francisco, going in, getting Chase Young, adding him to that defense. You know, I think this is the best opportunity that Shanahan's going to have to win a Super Bowl. I mean, they look like a complete team. You know, seeing how Brock Purdy how he's playing and leading that team. They've had guys in and out of the lineup. I know Debo missed some time, Debo Samuels, but they don't miss a beat. They do not miss a beat.
I agree.
And so, and we understand, injuries is the common, you know, that's the thing that's gonna determine whether
the fragility.
Exactly.
All that.
So, but barring injury, I don't think anybody can beat them. I think what Shannon, like I said, what he's created up there in San Francisco and the Bay, it's a monster.
Something special.
Real talk.
And you brought up something very, very, very interesting because everybody talks about their offense, but really it's the additions that they've made on defense with Randy Gregory, with Chase Young, that is really propelling that defense to be what it was a few years ago when they were going up against Mahomes and just missed that Super Bowl. So, G, what about you?
Well, you know, you've heard me talk. I think that any Super Bowl team that I've ever seen win, they have all three phases of the game locked up. So this is a team, and you know, let's say, just to throw a little quiver, a little caveat out there to the AFC team, I think that the Ravens might be in the same category. Even though with the let's say the loss of Andrews makes it a little bit of a struggle, but the bottom line is that you have to have all three phases playing at an optimum level. And what the San Francisco 49ers have proven is that they have a formidable offense, they have a solid special teams, and then they have a formidable defense. And that is the formula for success. Granted, injuries can make this all be scrambled eggs at the end of the day. But they have all three phases. And if they don't win, damn them, because why not? Y'all are supposed to be it. And they should be.
You know, and we talked about this off camera earlier, talking about how that team has really bought into what Kyle Shanahan is selling too.
Yeah.
That is another piece to a championship team. Like that team, like they stick together and they seem to be on the same page in every aspect. What you just said, offense, special teams, defense.
Right.
They're together. And so, me from personal experience, I watched Kyle grow up in our locker room. He was my coach, Mike Shanahan, his son. And just seeing how he has become a leader of men and how he's galvanized those guys, I can't. It would be very disappointing if they didn't come and walk away without winning the Super Bowl this year.
I couldn't disagree more. I should say agree. Agree.
That's Scott.
That was Scott. But no, I think you're spot on. At the end of the day, they should win. Period. End of story. They should win, and it will be a disappointment if they don't, because they have all three phases.
And here's the one missing link that many teams that don't get there don't have, that I think this team does have, and that's that mental toughness, that mental fortitude. And the reality is we've seen that in past teams, right, that have won. We saw it, with your Denver team. I mean, we've seen it with the Ravens with Ray Lewis. We've seen it with the Chiefs. But let me tell you something. I think that's the one missing ingredient that the Chiefs that don't have this year, is that mental toughness, that mental, every player being dialed in. And we saw that at the end of the Chiefs-Bills game with Tony making a butthead, asinine mistake by being in the neutral zone. Now, I have some real
you have issues with it.
I have some issues with it, but I want to hear what you guys think about that call at the end of the game. What were some of your thoughts on it, Jim?
Well, okay. So I'm going to say this, and I will admit I'm biased because the Raider fan in me was overjoyed at the demise and the debacle that ensued. But it was a perfectly executed play that was for naught, because a receiver who gets paid, six figures couldn't look over and look at the referee and make sure that he was lined up. Now, granted, he was in a situation, it was a high leverage situation, and he did line up, and those are the kinds of plays that get, let's say, overlooked all the time because it was pre-snap. But I also feel as though that I've heard through the cadences of all of the social media and all of the shows and so on and so forth, that that's something that professionals pay attention to regularly. So I can't, especially as a Raiders fan, I cannot, let's say, give him a mulligan for him not lining up correctly. And the flag was thrown, and he ended up ruining what was going to be a miraculous comeback by them, or potentially even win by them, because he just lined up over the football. And the only last thing, the quarterback and the head coach decided to show their complete donkey on. They got so disgusted. They were so disgusted. And as a Raiders fan, I was overjoyed. But I can understand their level of disgust because of the perfection of the play that just ensued. I mean, look, Kelsey threw a perfect lateral pass. I mean, it couldn't get any more perfect than that. And to have that be wiped away and never be in the annals of history was like a crime.
Well, but here's what the twist is. We actually have a professional and had the opportunity to sit over here and line up. For you, who have lined up in that position, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, let me start where you left off. You're talking about Patrick Mahomes, his emotional outburst after, well, on the sideline, and then after the game in the media. Andy Reid, kind of taking up for him, and who I love Andy Reid. I played for him in college. I've known the man since I was 15 years old. Recruited me to the University of Missouri. All that being said, the man was offsides, man. Come on, man.
Okay.
Hey, listen. I started playing football in 9th grade in Fort Worth, Texas, Eastern Hills High School. I played receiver, and the first thing they told us to do, when you line up, you check with the ref. Hey, he's going to help you out. Now, here's the thing, and this is how it works. You have to line up, and then you have to ask the ref, hey, ref, am I good? Am I okay? He's not going to offer that up to you. He's not going to say nothing to you. If you line up offsides, it's not his job to say, hey, man, you're offsides, you need to get back. No. But if you ask, if you say, hey, ref, am I okay? Am I lined? He's going to say, no, you need to back up or you need to scoot up, whatever there is. So just that process, I learned that day one in 9th grade playing football in high school.
Right. It sounds rudimentary, right?
It's literally, and you're, like you said, you're a professional. That's part of being a pro. When you go into, every team has they give you this thing called the 4 A's. You know what the first A is?
No.
Alignment.
Okay.
Where do you line up?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is assignment. 3 is action and adjustments. Whatever action you have and whatever.
Preach.
So you need, the first A is alignment. Where do I line up? And so you have to go through those things. And here's another thing too, because this is late in the game, 4th quarter. I remember in college when I was at the University of Missouri, we used to always run our drills, and late in practice, we would always line up and do gassers or do some sort of conditioning. We had a rule there. If there was a line, you had to be behind the line. Why did we do that? It was so guys would literally look down, see where your toes are, make sure you're behind the line, even when you're tired. You know the old saying, fatigue makes cowards of us all. Mm-hmm. Well, fatigue, when you're tired, you do things wrong. You don't do the little things right. And that was part of that training process, that mentality.
You hear that, TA?
So literally every time you line up as a receiver, you need to look down, where's the ball? Where am I? If I need to ask the official, hey, Mr. Official, am I okay? They're going to help you out. And just that little process, that takes 2 seconds.
But Andy Reid expressed something differently in the press conference afterwards. What he said in his 2 decades in the NFL, that he's never been confronted with that, because anytime one of his players is possibly overstepping, that the ref will actually give him a little warning first. It's kind of just like when the play clock goes down to 0 and that ball is snapped right then. Those plays can be called, unless it's egregious, can be called all the time, but there is that little bit of gray area. And so Andy Reid has expressed that he wasn't given that same grace where the ref will say, hey, you got to check for such and such, number 19, because he's lining up in the area. And that's when a ref makes those type of calls in a game on the line situation. The fans nor the people that are attending or the people that are watching don't come to see a ref sit over and make that call. When you talk about a play,
however, let me say this. Listen, that's optional for the ref to give you a warning.
Right.
He doesn't have to give you a warning. Yes, please, sir.
Praise. Praise.
He doesn't have
Pour
to give
that
you a
man
warning.
a glass.
So why are you putting it in the ref's hands? Why are you putting your fate in the ref's hands when literally you can look down, look at the ball, see where you're lined up? You can ask him, hey, Mr. Official, am I okay? That's literally the process.
Okay.
So why would you put your fate in somebody's hands and say, oh, man, give me a warning? No.
This is a man who's
You're
played
offside.
in the league.
You're offside.
And you know.
I mean, that's just like speeding on the 405. And you hoping he could give you a warning or he can give you a ticket.
Yes.
Hey, I feel y'all. I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm absolutely disgusted that play is not going to stand because, one, I just think that they didn't want to see our man out there in Buffalo, Josh Allen, sit over here and go down at the hands of Mahomes once again. And I will tell you this, actions will always speak louder than words. When you see Mahomes' actions, when you hear and see Andy Reid's response to that at the end, this is something that is very, very rare. That call has been called 12 times this year, but it's only been called twice on a receiver in the whole year. So this is obviously something that's not called very often, and that's probably not the first wide receiver in that game that align themselves a little bit on the line.
I almost want to say this, and then I'm going to hand it to you because you're the one who's played in the league. But previous season, I think that this particular call was called twice in the entire season. They made a particular emphasis on alignment in the NFL this season. It's been called 12 times. So you can already see if it's been called 12 times, then that means that they're paying attention to it to a particular level in this season. And only thing that I can say is that Patrick Mahomes, because it happened to him, decided that he wanted to be a horse's ass and say, "How dare you do this in my house?"
Because I'm the greatest who ever did
it.
Hey, you know, you make a point there. You said it was called twice last season, 12 times this season. Obviously, it's a point of emphasis. Let me tell you what happens, though, with the officials. When you go to training camp, the officials come in, and they literally tell you what the point of emphasis are this year, what we're going to be looking for, what they're going to be calling a little more. So I'm pretty sure they told each team, hey, this is a point of emphasis this year. Look, watch your alignment.
Right.
We're going to be calling this a little more. And to see that number go from 2 to 12, obviously it's been a point of emphasis for the league.
10 of them were called on linemen, though. 10 of them were called on
But how
linemen.
about this?
Regardless, they're paying
sir.
attention to the line of scrimmage and where people line up.
I think they're paying attention to the wrong thing. But here's what the thing is. You know,
now, he's a Chiefs fan. I just want to tell you that for the record.
As we just talked about, mental fortitude is extremely important to galvanize and find wins in this league.
Sure.
And although that was a lapse in mental acuity and being dialed in, I have to say that wasn't the actual reason why the Chiefs lost. And we've seen the Chiefs fall behind or not execute and not perform and not score at a rate that they have in the past. So the real question is when we saw the Chiefs lose to the Bills, lost the previous week to Green Bay, and now we've sit over here and seen the other last year's Super Bowl attending team in the Eagles get mollymopped by the Cowboys, and the week before that get their behind spanked by the 49ers.
Right.
What do you think is the difficulty, is the challenge with these two great teams that are now literally taking massive steps backwards at a time when they should be ascending?
Well, Byron, I'm going to allow you to go ahead and jump in because I have some thoughts, but go ahead and jump in. What do you think?
My first instinct, when you're at the top, when you make it to the Super Bowl, you're everybody's Super Bowl that next season. Everybody's looking at you and they're gonna give you their best effort. That's number one. I remember we won our first Super Bowl, and that next year we come back and we had a hell of a game versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and we were the worst team in the league at the time. And they came and played because they took it as, oh, we're playing the Super Bowl. This is our Super Bowl. We're not going to make the playoffs, but this is going to be our Super Bowl this week. And so that's number one. You're taking every team's best shot. And just staying on top is so much harder to do. It's so hard. I mean, the human nature says, I made it. Let's relax. Let's get a little complacent. That's human nature. And so you're fighting against that as well. As I know their coaches, that's the number one thing that they have to fight against. Guys want to get paid. Guys want all the ancillary things that come with success. Hey, man, we were in the Super Bowl last year. We want to party. We want to hang out. We want to, do all these other things. We don't have to work as hard. We're good.
Taking that foot off the gas.
Yeah, most definitely. And so that's the other part of that as well. So I just think, there's some teams out there, like we talked about the Niners early, they're hungry. They haven't tasted that Super Bowl.
You're right.
They haven't won. They haven't held that trophy. The Eagles have done that. Kansas City has done that. So they want their opportunity. They want their chance to prove that we're the best, and we want to hold that trophy and have that confetti fall down on our heads.
Yeah. Well, and the only thing that I would do is just to piggyback off of that is I think when you start analyzing the teams themselves, the thing about the Eagles that is different from, let's say, the previous year to this year is their secondary. They had Gardner Johnson, that was a real poignant player for their team when they had their Super Bowl run, and he was an interception turnover monster. And when they lost him, and then he ended up going to, I think he might have went to Detroit, right? So getting a guy who has the same ilk or the same cadence on paper to him, but not delivering in the same way, the continuity has been lost when you lose a player who is delivering for your team. And what I see with the Eagles is their secondary now, mind you, that's why they went and got Byard, right? They got Byard from Tennessee to try and give themselves a little bit of energy and juice on their back end, because they knew that their corners, and whether or not they press or zone, they are not giving the same level of, let's say, a production that they did the previous year.
Because they weren't spring chickens.
And so at the end of the day, I think that the Eagles have a very strong front four, and that front four is playing dominant, but it doesn't play as dominant against a formidable offensive line, and their back end is showing holes. And that, coupled with the fact that, you know, maybe Jalen Hurts and company are not playing in the same rhythm, whether it's injuries or what have you. Maybe, their running backs are not hitting the holes the same way. But whatever, it's not the same thing. So maybe that speaks to a little bit of the energy you're talking about, that they feel like they've arrived, that they should already do that. But if you combine that with the fact that they are slightly weak on the back end, you're getting exposed when you play against superior teams who are hungry, and the Cowboys are hungry like a mofo.
You know, and I gave you a high level view, but getting specific, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Their receivers are horrible.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
Egregious.
And so they're not the same offensive team we've seen the last 2 or 3 years. And mind you, their offensive coordinators in Washington.
That is a point that I want to talk about.
Yes.
And so is the Eagles offensive coordinator.
I think they lead the league in drop passes, their receivers.
They do.
As a group. You know, Kelsey is still Kelsey, but he's not making the plays that he made before. He's not a spring chicken anymore.
Right.
Still one of the greatest tight ends of all time.
Who would have thought that they needed Juju Smith-Schuster so bad?
And then the other missing piece, and I know they missed him and they won the Super Bowl, but Tyreek Hill. Just imagine what this offense was like, what it could be like with Tyreek there.
Yes.
And Tyreek's not getting slower. We have not seen a degrade in his performance yet. He's actually gotten better. So I think they were a little bit premature. I think just like with the Tennessee Titans not wanting to pay A.J. Brown and sending him off to the Eagles, and how much of that was a big mistake for that team. I think the team not finding a way to sign Tyreek was a huge mistake. But you touched on something, and this was really my point for this, is that not just the Chiefs, but also the Eagles lost their offensive coordinator. And what was funny is Andy Reid himself said that Bieniemy called the plays, but nobody wanted to believe that. And the only real difference, in my opinion, from this offense from last year is that Bieniemy is not the coordinator, because I think there was an upgrade without Schuster, because Schuster is not being very good. So you look at Bieniemy, who obviously did have a whole lot more to do with that offense than what media and everybody else tried to give him credit for. But not only him, but on the Eagles side, Steichen went and got the head coaching job at the Colts. And that was a team that was absolutely abysmal last year, and he's gotten them to where they're knocking on the door of the playoffs this year.
Make the playoffs.
And that team is just not performing. All the tools are there. I think it's even a little bit more enhanced with the new running back that came from the Lions. He's played a great year, but the offense just isn't clicking on the same cylinders as it was last year. So I think when you lose your offensive coordinators, the individuals that were in the in the gutter with the teams. That's probably not the best expression, but in the trenches with the team in terms of the preparation and getting them ready for the games and more of the stick. The head coach has too many things to do to focus in. He's a CEO, and those offensive coordinators that are now gone, one having to take a lateral role, one getting an opportunity even though they lost, and getting an opportunity for a head coaching job. I think that's what you look at the very greatest challenge that they're facing. But one last thing. When you look at the Chiefs, they haven't ran into formidable teams. They're just not playing at a great level to beat above average teams. Whereas Philly has ran into two juggernauts in the past 2 weeks with the 49ers and the Cowboys back-to-back that have gotten there behind. So I'm a little bit more concerned with the Chiefs. Unfortunately, obviously that's my team, but a little bit more concerned with them than I am with the Eagles. I think the Eagles have the time to get a little bit more healthy on defense. Remember, their linebacker crew has been completely depleted. That's why they just put up Leonard.
Incorporated Leonard yet. They just resigned him.
But they're going to be playing these high-level teams once they move into the playoffs.
But if you can get a little bit healthy in terms of those holes in your defense due to injury, if you can get a little bit more healthy, because they added somebody that is an absolute monster in Jalen Carter, the rookie from Georgia, that's sitting, who's going to probably win Defensive Rookie of the Year. They've added some things to their team, but when your linebacker crew is completely depleted, all of those individuals are kind of down, and that's why they had to sign a Shaq Leonard to come up in there.
But when you get blown out the way they got blown out, that doubt creeps in.
I would
Can
agree.
we really beat these guys?
Yeah.
Can we even compete with these guys?
But they beat them last year.
I understand.
So it's 1-1.
That was last year, not this year.
That's true.
And this is a whole nother year.
You're right.
And this is a whole, and every team's different. And so I'm telling you, that doubt creeps in once you get blown out the way they got blown out. Can we go to San Francisco and actually compete? Because they're probably going to have to go to San Francisco.
At this point,
and at this point, they may have to go to Dallas
and
meet them in the playoffs as well.
And that's going to be tough. Now, the one beautiful thing about both teams is they have leadership at quarterback. That I would think that if any of us were a GM of a team, we'd be ecstatic to have either one of those quarterbacks leading the way.
Most definitely.
And to speak on that, there's a young up-and-coming quarterback that's been doubted, kind of just like Jalen Hurts, that everybody kind of foo-fooed early on his career, and all he needs is that opportunity to be with a team that is that's going to be the right fit, that's going to have the right type of coaching. And I'm speaking of Justin Fields. And if we look at Justin Fields and what he did this past week, leading that team to victory this past weekend. And if you look at the past 17 weeks, Justin Fields has accounted for over 4,000 total offensive yards. He's like top 5 in terms of quarterback production over the past 17 weeks bleeding into last week. I think this is a quarterback that is prime. If he gets to a team that's just a quarterback away, you're looking at him making not just the same explosive jump that Justin Hurts made, but could literally take a team all the way to the Super Bowl. That's how I feel about him.
Okay, let me jump into that one only because he reminds me of what we said about Kyler Murray the previous week in terms of, you know what, we all know that they have draft picks. Cardinals have draft picks. Chicago has Carolina, I believe, Carolina's draft pick, and they have their own. So they already know that they are in the proverbial quarterback sweepstakes. We know it. They know it. Everybody knows it. Even Tom, Dick, and Harry that is paying attention knows that they know that they can get Caleb Williams or May or anybody else that they want to get, right? So the question then becomes, are we going to leverage our future on paying our existing quarterback who is potential but maybe marginal but potential superstar? Or are we going to say, no, let me go ahead and get the cheap guy in the draft pick, develop somebody, and then build around
I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Well, I think that the Chicago Bears will be making a fundamental mistake to get rid of Justin Fields.
I agree.
Even though I will go on a limb and say that I hope that they do that because that means that he might be a Raider. and so I would love that from selfishly, but from a franchise standpoint, no, you need to understand that you have given this man about 3 or 4 different offensive coordinators and 3 or 4 different head coaches, and you have had him go through a gauntlet of guys, and you have not given him a number 1 wide receiver until this year. So he's been dealing with Mooney, and now he's got Mooney and Kmet as their number 2 and 3s, and he is getting his mojo together. Because the bottom line is you're not going to find a guy who is 6'3", who can run somewhere between a 4.4 and a 4.5, who's got a rocket arm. And he has already played in the league.
So Byron, what would you say? If he went to the Raiders, would you be a little bit nervous, or what are your thoughts on Justin Fields?
What are my thoughts on Justin Fields? Let me say this. If I'm the GM for the Chicago Bears, I'm making that trade.
Ooh.
Because I'm not sold on Justin Fields. I think he is what he is. He's a great athlete. You just rattled off, 6'5", 230, 4'4".
Say it with your chest.
Hey, I'm saying it with my chest, man. But I'm not sold on him in the passing game. He's a guy that's thrown 37 touchdowns, 27 interceptions in his career.
Yeah, 27 don't sound good. That don't sound good.
It does not. And then the other part of it is, when you're that guy, and because all the guys that when you're coming out of college, you're going to get drafted to a horrible team. Can you turn around that franchise? Can you be the difference maker in that franchise? And to me, I'm just not sold. I think he is what he is. He's a great athlete playing quarterback. I think he needs to improve. He's got to get better in the passing game, and I get it. I understand about the weapons he maybe have not had or whatever. I get that. But to me, I don't see him being the guy that's going to take my franchise to another level.
Well, as a Raiders fan,
I got to chime in here.
No, hold on. Because this is just my opinion. This is my opinion.
Of course.
And I don't see it. I haven't seen it. So if I am that GM, I'm trading him. I'm getting as many draft picks as I can. I'm trying to find that. I'm trying to find Brock Purdy at the end of the draft. And I'm trying to load up on other
they're
weapons.
Going to have the number 1 pick, so they don't have to get Brock Purdy.
No,
they got two lottery picks.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
But they have the number 1 pick in the draft, so they can pick between Caleb or Drake May.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm trying to maybe even parlay that into more draft picks to get more weapons or more free agents in the building.
All right.
I just don't think, to me, Justin is not that guy. He's got a rock.
Hold on, let me ask you this. Is Trevor Lawrence that guy?
Trevor Lawrence that guy? He's not going to take them to the Super Bowl. He's not taking Jacksonville to the Super Bowl.
I would agree with that. But do you remember Justin Fields playing Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs in the year right before he came out? He absolutely destroyed him when Trevor Lawrence was, quote unquote, the number 1 player coming out that year. And he actually absolutely gave him the business, got hurt, and then went up against Georgia when they won their very first championship, and with broke ribs, sit over
We're talking about
in Ohio State. Ohio State.
Yeah.
So
we're not talking about the NFL.
Well, but here's what we have to remember.
I remember Tim Tebow winning a national championship in Florida, but I don't remember him doing squat in the NFL.
Well, we don't want to compare those two.
I'm just saying, but if you're going to bring up something that happened in college, it doesn't necessarily translate. That's all I'm saying.
Is it fair to say at Carolina that player, Bryce Young, is it fair to say he's probably a better quarterback than what he's displaying now, and that the system, he had coaches that didn't believe in him, and the system that he's currently playing in is not emphasizing his skill set at the greatest level? And Justin Fields went through the same thing when he had a coach who's now the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, and you see how the Chiefs are performing. He was playing with being the OC of the best quarterback we've seen in our lifetime.
Do you think that Young has been given a raw deal, essentially?
he's been put in a situation. Yes, he's been put in a horrible situation.
So was Justin
Wait, hold on.
Fields.
The problem, though, the difference is this. Bryce Young's a rookie. He hasn't even played a whole season yet. Justin Fields has got 3 years. What's this, 3?
3 years, two
So
different
he-
head
to
coaches,
me-
and both head coaches are
To
whack.
me, he is who he is. He is who
Okay.
he is.
Okay.
This is who this guy is going to be.
Okay. There is. Yeah.
Now-
When he goes to the Super Bowl next year, I'm gonna have you back here. You're going to we're going to talk about this.
And he's going to be wearing the silver and black.
Hey.
No.
Well,
No,
then
they're not
he-
going to
then
the
he
Super
won't go to
Bowl.
the Super Bowl. That won't happen.
He won't
Or
be
at
in the
least
Super Bowl. That happens.
At least he won't win.
I rebuke both of you and just killing my dream.
Like-
Killing my dream. But okay.
I think I was like 12 years old last time they was in the Super Bowl. Or they won something, yeah.
No, because I made fun of him when we was
butchers
20-something
me
years
all
old.
the
Remember they played Tampa Bay. So it's been a little bit of time since then.
I said since they won.
Oh, yeah, since they won, yeah.
No, it was 83.
Yeah.
83?
83 was the last time the Raiders won.
in
And
the
that
80s.
was when we had
Brothers
steroids.
was breakdancing
Yeah.
and Jerry curls. We had Jerry curls.
Yeah, we had satin jackets. With the
Parachute
Raiders
pants.
symbol.
Look, the one thing I can say about Justin Fields is that the moment has never been too big for him. Even when he had to play with not the very best core or even under a tremendous amount of scrutiny, we never saw him really wilt. He might not have elevated, but he didn't wilt. But let me tell you something. There is a team that's out there that is wilting under the expectations of being great.
I can almost guess.
And we're talking about the Detroit Lions.
yeah, dude.
Who, this was everybody's
Detroit.
fan favorite coming into the season. And guess what? They shot out of the cannon and played extremely well the first half, the first 2/3 of the season. But now we're getting into crunch time. Now we're getting into when the rubber meets the road, and those expectations are starting to weigh heavy on not just the team, but specifically the quarterback. And we've seen 3 games in a row that have been subpar, and they've lost 2 of the last 3.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Lions? Have your thoughts changed from the beginning of the season in terms of what you expected from them or what you thought they were going to be, or are they exactly who you thought they were?
No, okay. First, I want to just lead by saying I think Dan Campbell has done a phenomenal job with that team. I think that he is a really, really good coach. Now, that being said, they have St. Brown. They've got, I think, Reynolds. They've got a pretty good receiving core. Who's their tight end? Is it
Laporta.
Laporta?
Yeah.
Laporta is good, but maybe this is a scheme thing. Maybe it's the offensive coordinator. They're not using, I think, was it Jamar Gibbs?
Jamar Gibbs. Both of them average six yards a game.
Yeah, they're
or
not
6 yards a
using
carry.
him. They have Montgomery.
They don't give them the ball enough.
Yeah,
Enough,
they're getting a little too pass happy, and I think that they are not paying attention to what the defenses are actually doing, and I don't know if I want to blame the offensive coordinator or the quarterback or both, right? It's kind of like, why are you guys throwing the ball when it's cover 3, cover 4, and you're just saying, screw it, I'm going to throw the ball down the field? It's like, no, why don't you force the team by running the ball to compromise to what it is that you want to do, and then you can run play action, because that's what you did in the early part of the season, and they've gotten away from that, and they have to acknowledge that their defense is not a type of defense that is going to, let's say, cover up all their mistakes. And their pass rush is let's say, good but not great.
No, their pass rush is absolutely egregious. They're one of the worst pass rushing teams in the entire
All right,
NFL.
so guys like Hutchinson,
That's all they got.
They're not getting home.
No.
So why do that? Why don't we spend more time?
Because
eating the
Ben
clock?
Johnson is starting to read his press clippings. Ben Johnson's
Think
starting
so?
to think that he can cook. And at the end of the day,
Who is that? The offensive
that's the
coordinator?
offensive coordinator that's up for the Carolina job and so on and so forth. So Byron, for you, what do you think?
Yeah,
what
what
are
are
your
your
thoughts on
thoughts?
Lions?
Yeah.
My
me
thoughts
your
on
take.
first of all, I like Dan Campbell. He's a tight end that was in the league when I was in the league, so I'm a fan of course, tight ends. You mentioned Laporta, the tight end there currently, because I love who they had
you're
before.
A tight end guy.
T.J. Hawkinson, that's my guy. But I love, he's a young and up and coming tight end. That being said, I think
Hawkinson's at Minnesota.
Yeah, he's at Minnesota now. I'm saying they got rid of him for.
And then bring Laporta. What do you think about Laporta? I think
he's
Laporta
a
is
young
a business.
He's
a lion.
He's an up and comer. Yeah,
Yes.
he's a playmaker. And I think, like you said, Campbell's done an amazing job with this team.
Amazing.
And the GM.
Getting them to where they are this year. But my honest opinion is I think they've maxed out where they are. I mean,
is it because of quarterback or is it because of the overall composition of the team?
Because of the damn Detroit Lions.
And
they always gonna be the Detroit Lions.
It's like, have you seen Bye Bill yet?
That's why. Right now, I think they're the fourth or fifth best team in the NFC, and I think that's where they max out.
So they're performing above.
I think
where
this
they
is
should
exactly where they max out.
Okay.
And so anyone who has expectations of them going deep in the playoffs with the Niners or with the Eagles, it's just unrealistic, man.
Right,
You're the Lions.
Right.
Be happy. You're the Lions. Be happy where you are because it could be a lot worse, and it has been a lot worse over the years. And I think Dan Campbell has really gotten the max of what he can get out of this team.
Mm-hmm. I would just be happy if they won a playoff game. I would be like, oh man, they need to throw a parade.
And I would be excited for him because you're talking about a team that's been down and out for 50 plus years, right?
Oh man,
for 50 plus years.
And they made Barry Sanders retire.
They did. Not just Barry Sanders, but also one of the greatest wide receivers ever in Megatron.
Oh, yeah.
When you talk about teams that have been in the doldrums of the league, we saw two teams, actually three teams, this past Sunday play and with their backup QBs. And sit over here, and those backup QBs found a way to play well. Two of the three getting over 300 yards, and the other one getting just under 300 yards. You have the Bengals backup QB because obviously Burrow's hurt. We have the Browns QB because obviously Deshaun's hurt his shoulder.
Flacco is having a resurgence.
So we have Browning, we have Flacco.
Now
Flacco, right?
Again.
Play great. And then we have the Jets. And you know how brutal I've been on Zach Wilson. But I have to give credit where credit's due. When he played his very best professional game this past week against a Texan team that was actually ascending. And so, just very quickly, how important is it in the NFL nowadays with the physicality? Even though these new rules are trying to lessen the physicality, nonetheless, these quarterbacks are getting hurt, and you have to have a viable QB to come in in relief when your starter's been hurt or your season's done.
Gonna hand that to you,
and these three players are sitting over here. Flacco is saving the Browns season. Browning is sitting over here and giving Bengals life on possibly making the playoffs this year. And Zach Wilson, for the future past Aaron Rodgers, is maybe giving them a little bit hope that he actually might be the quarterback for them in the long term. So how important is that? You being in the league and having to experience
your
some
point
issues.
of view.
So from my experience, you saw about how important it is in the league nowadays, but it's always been important. It's always been, you always have to have that guy that can keep the ship afloat, while the starter is hurt. And, I look at our second Super Bowl season. We went 14-2. Well, Bubby Brister, our backup quarterback, started four games that year. And he won, and he came in and we won all four games.
Wow, won all four games.
And Bubby kept us, he kept us going on the right direction. And I remember we used to tell Bubby, we got a Ferrari right here, bro.
Don't screw it up.
Just keep us straight. Don't strip the gears. Keep this thing in first place. And in first gear, we'd be all right, man. Just don't mess it up.
Right.
We got this.
Right.
And so you need that type of guy. And for me, when I saw Joe Shiesty, that's my guy. When he got hurt, I was like, oh man, Bengals season is over. But Browning, like you said, he's come in. He played well. He played
2 games in a row.
He's played well, and he's giving them a chance to maybe possibly grab a playoff spot. When I thought when Joe was
we were all like,
we were like, hey, it's over.
The entire NFL was like, they're done.
They're done. And you know, so that was a pleasant surprise for me. I don't care, man. Zach played well. I'm not sold on him. Never.
Oh,
never.
No.
Never.
I'm not sold on him.
Never.
But he played the very best game of his career.
He played his best game of his career.
I feel like that was like the
kudos,
perfect
you know. But you know, hey, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now.
Yeah. So, let me tell you something. He's definitely a blind squirrel.
So then going to Joe Flacco, you know, he's probably the guy that has the most to deal with. I mean, as far as like, he's got the talent around him. He's got a phenomenal defense. He's got a dude over there, Myles Garrett.
One of the best.
That is, he's
probably win Defensive Player of the Year this year.
Yes. And so
and they're Newsome. They got players.
And he's in a position that all he has to do is make one or two plays here and there. Don't screw it up. Don't make the critical turnover, and then make a couple plays. You know, 2 or 3 plays during the game, and his defense is always going to give him a chance. And that being said, I'm sitting here thinking, Joe Flacco, man, if Joe Flacco got a job, why ain't Colin Kaepernick got a job?
And they never lied about that.
Did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did, and that's all right, because this is the place to talk about it.
Hey,
controversy.
You know, definitely, if Flacco can have a job, Colin Kaepernick
could have a job.
Any one of these past 5 years, he could have stepped in and helped the team.
I gotta say it. I gotta say it out loud.
Yes.
Okay.
But like I said, he's got the most talent around him. A first-class defense.
Cooper.
But he has offense and he has everything, and he is known to throw the untimely interception. But again, what was unique about him, what we didn't see last year when he was with the Jets, is he's sitting over here actually getting it done. Jets had talent last year. They had a great defense and they had offensive weapons, but for whatever reason, it just didn't click and work for him. Now let's see if Flacco can have another 300-yard game, because if he can string together in the next 4 games 1 or 2 300-yard games, well, guess what? The Browns are in the playoffs. Now, how far they go is probably not that far, but if this team can start getting accustomed to getting into the playoffs, that's going to bode well for Deshaun Watson next year. You know, everybody's all against Deshaun Watson, and they still have issues with what happened and down with the Texans, but I still remember his college coach saying and equated him to Michael Jordan. So I'm not going to sit over and give up on an individual just because he wanted to pay for some trim. At the end of the day, this is a talented individual. He's had a tremendous amount of rust that has built up over a couple of years of not playing, having to sit out the year prior, and then coming back after a suspension and now getting hurt this year. But I think his best days are ahead of him with a team like this. G-Money, what about for you?
Just as I analyzed the Browns, so everything you said, we look. Flacco, look, he was the guy who took the Ravens and had a perfect postseason. I don't think that Joe Montana could have had a more perfect postseason.
Got him paid.
And they got him paid, and they got him paid well. But we all know that day in, day out, he's not that guy. But what it is that he is proven through his resume, through the history, is that he can gear up if you give him tools around him. And what is evident about the Cleveland Browns is they have let's say a Super Bowl caliber defense without question. So then the question, and then Ford is formidable. They have a good offensive line. So then when you say if Cooper and the tight end can go, and Njoku, and with the weather, and with Flacco just being able, like, hey, I can spin it in cold, and you give me a couple of play actions, we might be able to turn some magic. With that being said, I think that there's a possibility that the Browns could shock and awe They could be the team that just says, with our, Super Bowl caliber defense, if we just are able to score anywhere between 17 to 24 points, we could upset the apple cart.
I can agree with that. I think, if he plays to a certain level, avoids those fatal turnovers, they could be one of those teams that get in and then maybe upset a team here and there. Be the X factor that nobody expected. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But yeah. With that defense that they got, and that's the big thing. Like you hit the nail on the head. They got a Super Bowl caliber defense, and anytime you can play defense, you got a chance.
Yes.
It's funny that you say that because there are teams out here that have a strong defense, and that the quarterback there's some questions about him. And there's this one quarterback that there have been questions swirling around him for the last couple of years, but I think at the end of the day, he might have the last laugh. And this is a quarterback that I'm sure you'll be able to appreciate. And that's Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. From what we saw early on in the season when they allowed a team to score 70 points on them, and now fast forward almost 10 games into the future, they won, and now they have one of the very best defenses in the league, and they have a quarterback that's playing within his means, and have a coach that is sitting over here and didn't lose faith, didn't sit over here and waver, and got the team to all get in line, and when we talk about alignment and care about winning, and not just care, but believe that they can win. And I believe that's what we're seeing in the insurgence of the Denver Broncos. So how excited are you about, them being just a game out of first place in their division from where they came from, and have a very good chance on making the playoffs this year?
I'm very excited about them. I'm excited to what I've seen from them since that Miami debacle. And you're right. Here's the thing. The way Russ has played exactly how Sean Payton wanted him to play all year. All year. And when you're the quarterback, you're going to get a lot of the blame when you lose, for sure. And let's just be real. Russ did not perform like the Russell Wilson
he was wetting the bed
last year. And I think there was a lot of carryover to that. A lot of people thought, oh, it's Russ's fault, they're losing or whatever. No, it was the defense. And I think the defense was resting on their laurels. They were reading their press conference, hey, we were number one defense last year. But they just wasn't bringing it. And I think the biggest thing that Sean Payton did is he didn't listen to the noise when they left Miami, and everybody was saying, hey, you need to fire that defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph. Sean was like, no, let me stick with this guy because he knows what he's doing.
He's been a head coach.
And Vance rallied the troops. They had a come to Jesus meeting, and he got them right because these last 7 games, I think they're giving up like 16 points a game.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
One of the best defenses,
and they are performing. And that's allowing Russ to kind of just manage the game, which he's doing very well. Cortland Sutton making big plays now. Here they're
now they only have to score, let's say, 17 points to win.
And so he's got this connection with Cortland Sutton. We need Jerry Jeudy to step it up a little bit. They've made a plays here and there, but not as consistent as I want to see them. I think Javonte Williams, I think he's a great back, and I think he's coming off the knee injury. He's not where he was before the injury, but he's getting there. He's getting there. And like I said, with the way they're playing, and to be one game out of first place, I mean, if you're a Bronco fan, you got to be ecstatic. You got to be ecstatic. And
I don't think anybody saw this coming.
No,
I know I didn't.
No one did.
Did you?
I you know what? Honestly, and I bleed blue and orange. I did not see this.
No.
I did not see this type of
Not this season.
Dramatic turnaround.
And I think that's a testament to Sean Payton. I mean, I didn't like how rough he was with Russell. He was real rough. Like, Russ definitely didn't need any coddling, but I thought he was a little bit more abrasive with Russ than a traditional coach would be with a star quarterback. But I think Russ maybe needed that tough love to get in line, to do what he needed him to do so they could win games.
You know what? I think he wasn't rough to me. He was exactly what needed to happen for Russ. Like Russ, there were the reports about him separating himself from the team. And we talked earlier about my quarterback, John Elway. That was the one thing that we loved about John. He was a superstar of superstars. I mean, you got to understand, he was the Tom Brady of the time.
Absolutely.
He was the Peyton Manning, but he was one of the guys. Mm-hmm. Quick story. So Shannon Sharp has his podcast, Club Shay Shay.
Shay Shay, love it.
Well, yeah. Club Shay Shay was the actual place. It was Shannon's dorm room when we used to go into training camp.
Right.
Like that was the hangout spot. We go in there, play dominoes, play spades, shoot dice, whatever.
Right.
Have a couple beers, you relax. Once 2 days was over.
Right.
And so all the guys would show up in Shannon's room, and we named it Club Shay. He named it Club Shay Shay. And here's the thing, though. The superstar quarterback, John Elway, he's in there with us, playing cards.
He wasn't playing no dominoes.
Shooting dice, playing, drinking beer.
Right.
He's one of the guys.
He's definitely.
He's one of the
he
guys.
Didn't separate
but that
himself.
Ingratiated him to our team. That's why guys loved him. And when you got on that field, you're gonna play hard for him.
Yeah,
and that was the difference of Russ kind of separating himself year one from the team. Mm-hmm. And guys,
he hadn't earned that yet.
Guys, exactly. He might have earned that in Seattle,
but
not
you didn't
earn that in Denver.
Yes.
So, but even at that point, you still got to be one of the guys, and they got to know that you're one of the guys. And I'm gonna tell one more example. That's why they love Tim Tebow. When Tim Tebow was in Denver, he had his little run there. Tim Tebow, and everybody knows him. He's a big religious guy and whatever. But Tim, when they would ask Tim, "Hey Tim, we're having a party, come hang out," Tim would go to the parties with the team. Now he's not doing the same thing. Right. He's not drinking.
He ain't smoking.
Women. He ain't smoking.
He ain't at the bar like we
are. He's at the bar with some sparkling water.
Okay.
With some holy water.
Right.
But Tim would show up, and to show the guys, "Hey, I'm one of you guys.
That's what's up." Yeah.
And so
I love it.
But that's who the quarterback to me has to be, and that's the difference, I think, for Russ this year versus last year.
Right.
Okay. Russ is becoming one of the guys, and now he's playing the way Sean Payton needs him to play as a leader of that team.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
What are your thoughts? Because that's your nemesis.
Yes, it is.
They've got in your cheeks for a lot of years. So how excited are you for Denver sitting over here?
I was in those cheeks for real.
And the cheeks, for those of y'all that don't know, the cheeks that we're talking about is the Raiders' cheeks.
Okay. Pause, but I was
I'm showing a lot of restraint. I am aware that I'm in Bronco and Chief country because I'm basically I'm a fish out of water, yeah. But okay, I can acknowledge that your coach has done what I want to happen, whether it's Pierce or another guy. I hope that it's Pierce for our team, but he's galvanized men. He has gotten them to believe, and he's gotten them to execute at a high level. And I will openly say that I hate the Broncos.
We hate you too.
And touche and confrere mon frere. Okay, so we both know and we are mutually agree that it is. Yes, it is a mutual hate. But I respect the fact that what I have seen is we beat Denver week 1. And we have gone through this, let's say, as a Raiders fan in the season, and I say we because as you know, like fans just follow the team. So I've seen them go through this rainbow roller coaster of changes. And what I have seen from Denver is that they have been a model of consistency through the debacle that was Miami. So Miami happened, you got your ass smacked, and then everybody paid attention. And from that moment on, they just said, from a cold dead hand, are we going to be embarrassed like this ever again? And that's how they've played. And kudos to Sean Payton. And kudos to Russell Wilson because they
Playing
just
within himself.
And kudos to that defense because they just said,
Vance Joseph.
hell no, this is not how we roll. And they just said, every opponent that has come thereafter, we are going to smack them in the mouth and we're going to dare you to try and be Miami to us. Whether or not that has been the catalyst for them, who knows?
It had to be.
was the
It had to
catalyst.
be.
Yeah.
It definitely was the
Because
galvanizing
they had a
force.
choice to either give up on their season, which it almost looked like they were giving up on their season in the second half of that game. I mean, it looked like the players had given up. That was the narrative that surrounded the players at the end of that game. But again, kudos mostly
to them.
Sean Payton, to Vance Joseph, and to the organization as a whole,
Yes.
to be able to
Yes.
put
They
it back
they
together.
pulled
So-
themselves
so-
up
By
and
the
said,
bootstrap.
hell no.
So yeah, just to confirm it definitely was the galvanizing force. And I know for a fact that those players had a meeting and some things were aired out in that meeting.
Had to be. Mm-hmm.
And like you said, as far as being embarrassed, that was something that was said. Like we're not going to take the field and be embarrassed like that ever again.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way. We're too good of a defense to be giving up 70 points. Like,
You're right.
it's crazy.
And they were in years past.
But it's something that has galvanized the entire team.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what I really like about them is that mentality I think will be lasting. I think that will only build.
That gets
will only
embedded into
grow.
your DNA to like they say, never again.
Yeah.
That I think that with the group of individuals that are there, anybody who remains there past this season will still have that embedded in their DNA. Never again.
And let me say this while I'm on this platform. I see some flaws in Kansas City, and I
Me
wouldn't
too.
be surprised if we overtook them.
Don't
Don't be surprised at the end
I
of the
won't be
season
either.
if we overtook them in the AFC West.
I won't be either.
You're hearing it right here first, because everybody has already given the division to Kansas City. They gave it to them weeks
Well,
ago.
why
They
wouldn't
still-
they? They've won it. He hasn't had
How
an
about
away
this?
game in the playoffs.
I hear what
but
you're
but I
saying.
will tell you,
I
I
hear what
agree.
you're saying.
How about this?
But they got a lot. They have a lot of flaws.
Yes, they do.
A
And
lot.
those flaws are starting to really show themselves.
Kansas City would have to lose another divisional game,
Yeah.
and the Broncos would have to not lose any more divisional
Okay, so
games
you
for
might
them to
be-
overtake
yeah,
them.
You might be rooting for my Raiders.
O'Connell's not going to make that happen. It's not going to be the Raiders.
Yeah, we're just gonna do what we got to do.
I know.
But hold on.
Okay,
One thing I do, we're lucky, we're blessed to sit over and have a two-time Super Bowl champion
Yeah, I love
here at the bar with us talking football.
love it, man. This is great
and so
times.
we've talked football, and that's been absolutely phenomenal. But, the thing that I've really been trying to, restrain myself is, to be able to have you here and to get some insight into, the world of a true NFL professional, the world of an individual, because very few NFL players actually have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. We got to pick your brain a little bit before we get out of here.
Okay.
You got to tell me what is your favorite story as a professional football player? It doesn't got to be with Denver. As a professional football player, what is your very favorite story that you can share with us?
Well, my favorite story, just being drafted as a 7th round pick. I was 222, number 222 out of about 235, 240 people that's drafted, and making up my mind when I got in that locker room that number one, I'm gonna make this team, and then my other personal goal that I set was to become a Pro Bowl player.
Which you had the opportunity to do in what year?
In 2001, 2002.
2001, 2002.
Yeah, and
that's what's up.
The biggest thing that I did was, and I encourage everybody to do this, whether if you're an athlete, whether you're a business person, whatever you do. When I got in that locker room and I found me a mentor, I literally went to the equipment manager and I said, "Hey, put my locker right next to Shannon Sharp's." And Shannon didn't know it at the time, but he was going to be my mentor, whether he knew it or not.
Whether he knew it or not, like it or not.
Because the thing is, like, he had the kind of career that I wanted. He played a long time. He made Pro Bowls. He had success. And so I saw how hard he worked, his dedication, and I was like, I want to be like that. Right. So put me next to that guy, because I'm going to learn from him. And Shannon was so gracious, was a great teammate. And that's the advice I give to kids. Like, whatever you're trying to do, go find somebody who's already navigated those waters. You ain't got to do it on your own. They've already got the blueprint for success. Go pick their brain.
And traditionally, champions, good quality individuals like a Shannon Sharp, want to sit over here and open themselves up and partake and provide.
Yeah, that's a great spirit
that
individual.
mentorship, without a doubt.
Just observing him from afar, he seems like a person of high character.
And the biggest thing was he was about winning. That's all he wanted to do.
I love it.
Some guys care about stats. Some guys care about money. Some guys care about all the ancillary stuff that comes along with the NFL. He was just about winning, man. And I'll never forget these words he told me. He said, because they drafted me to kind of take his spot. And he said, you know what, if you're good as they say you are, I'm going to teach you everything I know. And I remember that day because that's kind of the day that really changed my life as a player, because he was willing to impart knowledge and wisdom and the things that he knew to me. And I was a great student, man. I sat under his wing and learned it all. So, yeah.
It's funny.
Lucky you, bro, because
you're able to have that individual that will willing to do that. Yeah. But it's funny. We talk about so many players don't ever have an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. I know some players that don't even have an opportunity to get to the playoffs. Remember Josh McCown?
Yeah.
When he filled in the playoffs, and that was his very first time in over a decade career of ever playing in a playoff game.
Yeah.
So. What I'm saying is a whole lot of people don't ever have an opportunity to be a Pro Bowl player. So you've had an opportunity to be a Pro Bowl player. You've had an opportunity to play in multiple Super Bowls. Let me ask you this. What was your greatest memory in playing in the Super Bowl?
In the Super Bowl, wow. It's tough. I'll give you two. As a team, it was definitely winning that first Super Bowl. The Broncos had been there multiple years, so many times. It got blown out. They lost to Doug Williams, which I was cheering for Doug.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Low key, right?
They had lost to the Giants. They got blown out by San Francisco, and so they had all these years of heartbreak. And then we get there against the defending champs, Green Bay Packers. We're a 13-point underdog, but we were a confident bunch. We knew that they had never seen an offense like ours. They'd never seen an offensive line like we had, and a running back like Terrell Davis. We knew that we came in that game very confident and knew we were going to win that game. So, when that final ball got knocked down by John Mobley and just jumping on the field and knowing you're Super Bowl champs, I mean that was amazing because that was the first time. The other is more of a personal moment for me, or a personal thing. The second Super Bowl we play Atlanta, and Shannon Sharp gets hurt in the first quarter of the game, and so I have to come in and fill in for him and play the entire game. And I came in and had a great game, not only on offense but as well as special teams. I was named the special teams player of the game. They gave me a nice watch for that thing, and which I gave to my older brother because he just meant so much to me.
Amazing.
But just being in that game, making plays, catching the ball, first downs. I think every ball I caught was a first down that game, and being a part of that win to complete the back-to-back championships. I mean, as on a personal level, that was amazing. And one final story, because this is a cool story, and I don't really tell this story a lot, but so that game, John Elway's the MVP. It's his very last game.
In the
NFL. So him and I, we're all doing interviews after the game. Him and I, for some reason, were doing the most interviews, and so we got left at the stadium. The team had gone back to the hotels to start the Super Bowl party. So the team left the guy, Fred Fleming, with us, and he was kind of our handler to take care of us. So we wound up finishing our interviews, going to take showers, and they had left a bus for just me and John to ride back to the hotel. And as we're getting on the bus, there's a guy who hands us some 3 Cuban cigars, one for each of us. And we get on the bus, and John asked the bus driver, "Hey, can we smoke these on the bus?" And he tells us yes. So just having that moment with John, smoking that victory cigar on the way. I mean, his last game. I mean, it was it was perfect, and that's something that I will always remember. He always remembers. We talk about it, and like, yeah, you remember us on that bus, man, smoking those cigars, man. And it was just a
feeling
perfect
of accomplishment.
Yeah, it was a perfect ending to a perfect Super Bowl win, man. And it was cool.
That's a beautiful thing,
and literally that was his last game, and that was kind of our last moments together as teammates.
You know,
that's beautiful.
When you win a Super Bowl, that's a collective win. You know, it's all about the team. But when you have an opportunity to make a Pro Bowl, it's really about individually what you accomplished, what you did on a season-wide level. And so, you know, obviously it's only a select few that have an opportunity to make a Pro Bowl because of their individual success in their careers. For you, when you won that Super Bowl, you know, give us some insight. What was your greatest highlight in terms of that weekend? Because the Pro Bowl was different back then. Cats actually still played. Now it's touch or flag or whatever they're talking about. But when you played, it really meant something. It was much more serious than other competitions. The Pro Bowl, without a doubt.
Man, let me just go through, because there's a lot with the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl really meant a lot. And there's a few reasons there. You know, the first of all, like I said, reflecting on being drafted in the 7th round, 222. That just, you know, and coming to me, like, you had to be top 3 of your position or top 2 to make the Pro Bowl. So that told me how far I came. You know, people say started from the bottom, now
we're here.
Without a doubt.
100%.
Absolutely.
That's number one. Number 2, I got to go back to my coach. I was a Minnesota Viking at the time. God rest his soul, Denny Green. Love that man. I love him. And he's the sole reason that I became a Minnesota Viking. I went and I interviewed with, I went and visited the Patriots and Bill Belichick. I visited Detroit with Marty Morningwig. And then I went to Minnesota and I met Denny Green. And Denny actually told me in our meeting, he said a couple of things. He said, listen, I've watched every free agent tight end, and I want you to come in and be my starting tight end. That was number one. Oh, wow, you watch every guy and you want me?
Right.
He said, listen, when you come here, we got Randy Moss, we got Chris Carter, we got Jake Reed. Guess who's not going to get double teamed? You. He's like, you're going to get man-to-man coverage. You're going to catch about 60 balls.
He made it sound sexy.
He said, this is what he told me. He's like, you're not going to get double teamed. You're going to catch about 60 balls, and you're going to make the Pro Bowl. I was like, Denny, sign me up. And so what he said came true, actually. I caught about 60 balls, was the leading tight end in the NFC, and made the Pro Bowl. That was the part. And then the final part of that is, I'm born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. actually, where I was born is a place called Halava Heights. And those apartments in Halava Heights were knocked down to build Aloha Stadium. So I was literally born on the spot where the Pro Bowl was played in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Wow. And it's not played there anymore.
No,
the Pro Bowl's not there anymore,
But,
right?
Mind blown.
But they did a big story about me on ESPN and USA Today when I played there in the Hula Bowl with college, because like literally that actual spot was where the apartments where we lived in when I was born.
That's deep, man.
So going back to
meant to be.
Going back to that stadium to play the Pro Bowl, bringing my family with me, and then the other part, I just thought about this right now. My coach was Andy Reid.
Wow.
Who was my coach in college.
Right.
He was the coach. He was the coach at Philadelphia, but he was the NFC coach that year. So it was just special. I caught I think I caught 3 passes that game. The biggest thing was just trying to stay healthy. But we played. We actually played that game. They tackled for real.
Yeah, it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, okay, let me do a cute out. And
so, but no, it was just special to be there, to bring my family back to Hawaii where we all started. Was just an amazing honor.
Oh man, that is such a great story.
It definitely.
You didn't know that was coming. See?
No, I didn't know that was coming. That was
you
some
gave
good stuff.
You gave us a nugget.
I mean, give me a little. Hey, but
you know,
NFL, the careers in all the sports. You know, I played sports. I've grown up with individuals that have gone on to play professional sports. You know, you played sports in high school.
Yeah.
And
I made it to varsity.
Strong safety.
I made it to varsity.
But what I do know about a professional athlete is that it's not all shits and giggles. It's not all fluffy like. There's a grind and there's a professionalism, and just like any career, there's ebbs and flows, and you have to sit over here and get in where you fit in. And one of the things that I grew up with that most people that are watching this podcast aren't going to have an opportunity to know about is there was a thing back in our day when we were young, which was called NFL Europe.
Yeah.
And there were multiple teams in Europe that NFL players could play in. Yep. And so you had an opportunity to play in the NFL Europe, and it's not like the games now where you play a couple of games in either England or Germany. It was like England, Germany, Spain. Yeah. It was all over. What was that to actually be able to play a season in front of European fans and in that world and in that environment that was dominated by everything else but American football?
Well, man, it was God, that was awesome. It was an experience. And you got to understand this. There was a lot of young players, a lot of young talent, a lot of unproven guys. There was a lot of guys who came out of that league and became superstars on the NFL field. I can name Kurt Warner, Adam Vinatieri, just to name a few guys. You know, there's so many. I could go to Leroy Glover, who was an all-pro player. There's just so many guys that came out of that league. But for me, it was, first of all, one of my number one thing is I love to travel. So it was a free 3-month European vacation. And I was Spain, I was England, Scotland, Amsterdam. We were all over.
I love it.
So I played for the German team, but for me it was an opportunity to grow and develop as a player. I was sent over there by the Broncos, allocated by the Broncos. So it was the time when I was making that transition. I was drafted as a receiver, and they wanted to change me to a tight end. So it was my first time actually playing tight end. So I go over there, and for them it was like, well, go learn how to play tight end and make all your mistakes over there.
That makes sense.
It's not going to cost us any games over here.
Right. Come back here and be a official tight end.
So I get there and just have an amazing season. I was the leading receiver as far as catches, and I led the league. I think I had 9 touchdowns in 10 games.
Wow. So you hit almost every game.
Yeah. I think I had like 60 catches. So I was the leading receiver. I think there was a kid, Sean LaChapelle from UCLA, who actually beat me in yardage, but he was playing receiver and I was playing tight end.
Right on.
Came in second, and this was the most disappointing thing because I've never really focused on individual awards, but I wanted to win this. I came in second to Saran Stacy from Alabama for MVP of the league that year. His team won the championship, and I think that's why he got it. But they had this other thing. I was voted the most dangerous offensive weapon. But I wanted to win MVP for one simple reason and one reason only. When does a tight end ever win MVP?
Never. Never.
And
you were this close.
Ever.
Right.
And I came in second. And I still think I should have won that award.
Look, we don't need to
but that dangerous award ain't bad, though. This unbelievable stuff. But the last thing I wanted to talk about was, the great stuff that you're doing with Cal State LA. The beautiful thing is that, you were having a hands-on effect on the sporting department there. And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I just took the role as Director of Development for the athletic department at Cal State LA. The thing that I love about it is I really get to interact with our kids over there. And our kids are great. And you got to understand the dynamic of Cal State LA. We're over in East LA. Most of our kids are low-income kids. They're first-generation kids. 85% of them are first-generation kids. So they're coming to college for the first time with their families' hopes and dreams and all of that. And these kids are focused on two things. They're focused on their academics and graduating, and they're also focused on playing their sport. And they understand most of them they're not going professional in their sports, but they want to have a good time while they're in school, and they dedicate themselves and they work hard at sports, and then the other part is they work hard in school. And we don't really have any kids who are struggling academically because they're so focused, and we have a lot of black and brown kids. We're on the East Low. So
when you say something like that, both my mother, my father, and my wife have had the opportunity to grace that school. So I definitely understand what you're saying, that it means something special to me. When you came in and you had that LA insignia on your chest, it was like, boom, that stuck out to me. And I knew what that meant. And I definitely understand what you're saying, is that you were doing work that's above and beyond athletics. It's about the kids that are going there, and how do you propel them to the next level of life?
It's just giving them a chance to succeed and really go after their hopes and their dreams. And like I said, a lot of them come to our school bearing the hopes and dreams of their entire families. And they're going to graduate there and become professionals and change the trajectory of their family. So I really love being hands-on and being in there with them as they do that. To me, I think we are LA's best kept secret. We're a school of 28,000 kids that go to our school. So we're
28,000.
So we're a huge school. We have every sport except football. We don't have football.
But I think that's a testament to you, that it didn't have to be football centric for you to see the value in terms of what you could bring to student athletes, and not just student athletes, but to a learning institution as a whole.
And my job literally is to try to help elevate the program, the entire athletic program. And so we're doing some good things. 2 years ago, we won the national championship in men's soccer. This past weekend, we just won the women's volleyball championship.
Right on. I love
national
that. That's
championship.
Dope.
So the first women's sport in Cal State LA history to win an NCAA national championship. So,
well, how about this? We are a secret no more. How about that?
That is our goal. That is our goal, man, and to really elevate our program where we're competing for championships. We're graduating students, and our students are becoming leaders in our community.
Absolutely, that's beautiful, man.
And that's what we have to ask of our greats.
Yes.
That come from sports. You know, you've had an opportunity to be on a platform and to inspire individuals because of your great play. Now you have an opportunity to take a step off of that platform and be hands-on with that next generation that
And
didn't get
teach
an
them
opportunity
how
to see
to
you
do
play,
it.
Yeah.
but sit over here and can learn from the experiences that you glean from playing this great game of football. So, you know,
teach them how to do it.
teach them how to do it. And so with that being said,
Cheers.
it was
Cheers.
truly a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
Bang,
having
bang,
me.
Thank you
boom.
for having fun. We got a chance to talk some football
Yeah,
at Football
yay.
at the Bar. Everybody, please subscribe, download, and like, and
All day.
have some fun. Join us next week. We're going to bring you some more magic. Again, thank you, Byron Chamberlain, 2-time Super Bowl winning champion.
I know.
From the Denver Broncos, whipping the Raiders' asses. And we'll see you soon. Appreciate you.
Cheers.
I'm going to have to take that on the chin.
Hey, as I get